So hey there, this is Chris Trimble, author of How Stella Saved the Farm. And I'm very pleased today to be joined by Tim Sutton, who is an innovation director at the consulting firm Fahrenheit 212. Tim, thanks so much for joining us.
Happy to do it.
So Tim, many of our listeners are going to be familiar with Fahrenheit 212, but just for those who are not, could you give us just a little bit of background on your firm?
Yeah, sure, Chris. We are an innovation consulting company that works with Fortune 500 companies typically to help with either breakthrough or transformational innovation. So, typically a client will come to us with the intent to grow their business in areas where they're not very comfortable or that are kind of outside of the things that they do well today. We'll work with clients in financial services, retail, consumer packaged goods, consumer electronics. But, what we do that's a little bit different than others is we're not only involved at the very front end of innovation, but typically, we put a lot of our compensation at risk. And so, we're very, very focused on those things that will help with execution of innovation projects, because ultimately that's where the client gets value, and that's, how we prosper as well. So, we've got an at-risk compensation model that's different than most innovation consulting companies.
Good for you for taking on that risk. That's unusual for consulting firms. Given that,
yeah, we find that
Go ahead, Tim.
Go ahead. I say we find that clients love it because it aligns, with where they get value with where we do as well, and so it's a great way to open doors with clients, and it aligns what they're trying to do with their outcomes with our outcomes, and so it's been something that not only differentiates us, but we've had a lot of success with.
Tim, tell us a little bit about what made you want to share this little book called How Stella Saved the Farm with your colleagues at Fahrenheit 212.
Sure. Well, as I mentioned in our model, that execution is a huge deal for our clients, and it's a very, very important thing for us as well. And what we had seen in many projects early on is we'd get all the energy around the idea, we'd get a lot of internal buy-in, and for various reasons that seemed mysterious and unpredictable, things would bog down. And what we learned or what attracted us, I think, to the material in Stella is the idea that it's not predictable, and in some ways it's very, very predictable, and there are very there are clues that can help you understand where things may bog down, and you can be very active in getting to the outcome that both our clients want and we want. And I think that's what drew us to Stella, is the idea that we're not only going to be able to empathize better with clients, but in many cases it'll make us better at helping them on the path to getting the great idea into the market, which is ultimately where they succeed.
So Tim, you're a consulting firm, and very often these are pretty intellectual groups of people. When you first suggested maybe we should all read a parable about farm animals, how did people react?
Yeah, Chris, it's funny that we are, I think, a group that can both take ourselves pretty seriously, but also have a bit of fun. And there was a lot of laughter and a lot of kind of good-natured joking in the office about reading the book. And several people who are parents thought this is a great opportunity to kill two birds with one stone. I can read to my child and learn a business lesson as well. And so, I think what that masked, though, was there was probably some very real skepticism and some very real doubt as to whether a book in this format could help us do the serious business that we do. And even though we like to have fun, at the end of the day, we want to be doing things that are valuable with our time. And I think initial response was, is this really going to be useful? And before they got the book, I think there were some kind of sideways glances, and I went out on a limb and put my own credibility at stake in recommending it. But I think the rate of everybody read it, everybody jumped in, and I think at the end they felt very differently.
What were people saying around the office once several people had read the book?
We started to get a lot of chatter around similarities we saw in the experience of the characters in the book with what we had seen in client engagements, and a lot of speculation in terms of who actually saved the farm, and a lot of different opinions as to which character or characters may have made a difference. And so there was both the drawing parallels to the experience we've had, and kind of those aha moments, like, well, of course that project bogged down because it was something that they read in the book resonated with an experience we'd had, as well as trying to jump into the book itself and talk about
Tim, you actually took the step of gathering a group of colleagues in a room on an early morning, I guess over breakfast, to talk about the book. Can you tell us what that was like?
Yeah, we about every Thursday we try to get the whole team together and talk through training material, or in this case talk through the book. And it they said we had a great turnout in terms of people reading the book and coming to the session prepared. What we tried to do was really a couple different things. You first talk about walk through the material, the story itself, and just talk about beginning to end what happened very quickly. And then what I really wanted to tease out in a more formal setting was exactly what those parallels, where we had seen things in our own client experience and our own project experience that mirrored things in the book. And so that was the first part of the conversation. It was really to try to make it feel real. For a lot of people made those connections organically, but for others, I wanted to make sure that there was a chance to in the room in a more formal setting, talk about those parallels and talk about how lessons that we've learned. We could have learned much more quickly if we'd had this these conversations earlier. And once we'd made a lot of those connections, then we went through and looked at within the book itself, what role the characters played. Was anybody behaving badly? We talked a lot about the Bull character, just because it's a character that we run into a lot, and we have the tendency is to make that person wrong or make that character wrong, and just having a much better sense of empathy for that character and their importance, I think connected the dots for a lot of folks around the idea that just because somebody in the performance engine side of the business is doing their best, and sometimes it gets in the way of innovation, but they're doing what they should be doing, and it demystified a little bit, I think, some of the barriers that our clients have run into. So, and then we came back around to the conversation of who saved the farm, and just had so many different perspectives on that, which was healthy. And some folks, argued for individuals had the impact of saving the farm, and others, for the group collectively. So it was, at every different level, I think it was a very, very fruitful conversation.
Tim, I know that this meeting has just happened, and so you may not have tried this with a client yet, but can you imagine using Stella with a client?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that came out of our conversation was a couple people took their copy of the book and sent it to clients, and some clients in the toy space or clients in consumer electronics, and literally sent those on to their clients to say, to hopefully pass on some of the learning and some of the lessons. Absolutely, we can see that this material applies so strongly to what our clients want to do and what we are trying to help them do, that we're trying to understand that the right phase of a client relationship is it early in the relationship when we sit down and try to lay out the objectives for the innovation project, where we start to have this conversation, or is it later in that phase? So I think we're still trying to work out the right timing, but it's a conversation that's critical to the outcome they want, and it's a conversation that's critical to the outcome we want. And as far as a tool to help clients get their head around the challenges and prepare for some of the challenges, I think it's the best tool that we've seen to do that. So it's not a question of if we're going to use it with clients. I think right now we're just working out exactly how or what the timing will be.
Tim, thanks so much for spending some time with us today. It's been an enjoyable conversation.